So the number two area that we're going to be looking at now is working memory and its relationship to learning. So working memory is absolutely imperative to learning. Without a good, strong working memory, we're not going to be able to learn the way that we need to. So working memory is crucial in supporting learning and in maintaining focused behavior. So number one, working memory is a significant indicator of academic success, and it's far greater than IQ. IQ measures what we already know. Working memory measures our potential to learn. So when we're doing IQ tests, for example, the area that in psychology that we really focus on is looking at the working memory indicator on a subtest of an IQ test. And that is where we look at the discrepancy or the difference or the magnitude of difference between a student's working memory capacity, their verbal comprehension, we look at their perceptual reasoning and their processing speed as well. So it's really about understanding what all those four different subtests do and what they mean, and that's the job of a school counsellor. For us, what we really are interested in as educators, as teachers, is having a look at a child's working memory capacity. And we are told all the time that, working memory, we hear it in our classrooms, we hear it from the school counsellor, oh, they've got a really poor working memory. So what is it? We now know that it's the ability to hold, manipulate, file, retrieve information in the face of, multi-layered distractors, for example. So we really have to understand that working memory is a real significant indicator of how well we do within the classroom. And we go back to the slides before and we talked about the phonological loop and we talked about that visuospatial sketchpad. So if either one of those are in deficit in the classroom, then it's going to impact the way that we learn. Number two, 10% of kids in all mainstream classes will have a deficit in their working memory capacity. Now, working memory is a limited capacity system, and I'll say that again. It's a limited capacity system. You cannot improve the capacity of your working memory, but you can improve its efficiency. And we are going to be talking a little bit about that later on, how we can actually improve the efficiency of our working memory. So think of the 10% of kids in every mainstream class will have a deficit in their working memory. So if you're a teacher in the class of 30 kids, you're going to have 3 children within your class that are going to have a deficit in their working memory, at least 3. You may be fortunate and maybe one of those teachers listening to this now going, yep, I'm one of those that has 6, that has 9. I think I actually have a whole classroom full of kids who have a deficit in their working memory. And so it's basically just an average of around about 3 per class. And of course, you may be that lucky, blessed teacher that has more than 10%. If you look at point number 3, okay, working memory plays a central role in language comprehension, fluid intelligence, writing, reading, arithmetic, and problem solving. So if you have a working memory deficit in either that phonological loop or the visuospatial sketchpad or both, then you are going to have deficits in the way that you undertake comprehension tasks in the classroom, in the way that you're expected to put your thoughts from brain to paper. You're going to have difficulties with reading, simply decoding, sounding out the letters, putting those sounds together to make a word. You're going to have problems with basic mathematics. How do I solve a multi-layered problem? Well, I can't do it. How do I undertake a basic maths problem? So these are the types of behaviors that we see in our classrooms where working memory is crucial to learning. And working memory deficits do not discriminate. And what I mean by they don't discriminate, it doesn't matter where you're from, who you're born to, what side of the tracks that you come from. It doesn't discriminate. So you can be a gifted child So let me say that again. You can be a gifted child. You can have an IQ that is significantly in that gifted range, 124 plus. You can have an IQ that's 150, but you can still have a deficit in your working memory. You can be a child that has low cognitive function who can have a low IQ and obviously still have a deficit in the working memory. So working memory does not discriminate, and we need to be mindful of that when we're working with children in our classrooms. We need to be mindful that the kids that present as having a possible working memory deficit may not necessarily be those kids that always struggle with learning. They could also be those children that are quite bright, that are extremely articulate, can tell you the most phenomenal stories, but can't read. They have problems with simple aspects of comprehension. They have simple, difficulties with getting their thoughts from brain to paper.